I like to think that I conduct myself in a somewhat respectable fashion on this channel. Not that I'm some erudite pontificator, eye socket tightly clutching my monocle as I restock my glove compartment with tiny bottles of Grey Poupon, but lowbrow topics and juvenile gross-out humor just isn't my thing. But then I learned of the existence of a video game called Toilet Kids, and it's like, how do I not talk about that? I fear I'll be coming off as most uncouth today. Toilet Kids was a 1992 HuCard for the Japanese PC Engine, what we here in the States lovingly called the TurboGrafx 16, because Americans just aren't great at naming things. It is your basic Xevious clone, except the projectiles being hurled at you are of a scatological nature. And while I do enjoy the occasional shoot 'em up, and especially cute 'em ups, this will be my first time tackling a poop 'em up. The story begins with the boy groggily using the toilet in the middle of the night. Owing to some horrific plumbing mishap, he gets flushed down the toilet, which is something that has happened to the best of us. Soon he finds himself jetting around on his air scooter, which according to the manual has a duck head because, of course it does, in a world populated by immodest creatures with diets high in fiber. This kid, who might have a name but I can't read Japanese, so I'll never know, has two basic weapons at his disposal. A cannon that takes care of flying enemies and can be charged for a stronger spread shot, and bombs that handle targets on the ground. And while you'll find no shortage of flying creatures flinging feces at you, it would seem a large portion of your threats come from below. Some of the foes you'll meet in this vertical shooter include flying sandals, constipated frog things, defecating walking fish, misbehaving toilets, vomiting hippos, fart planes, pantless spiders, butt copters, and these weird looking floppy things that shoot yellow bullets at you. I know what those are. Every time you hit, you lose one of your scooters. A new one will take its place so long as you have remainders in your stockpile. Bombing 40 of those golden poop piles will grant you an additional scooter. Lose your last one and it's game over, and a big ol' stinky pile of crap for you. I must say, this is seriously the most intense potty training exercise ever. You could bring a friend along for your weird bathroom misadventures is a sentence I never thought I would ever think, much less utter. The second player controls a girl who is essentially the same as the boy, except her scooter is pink. It appears that they share the same initial stockpile of 5 scooters, which means a crappy player, pardon the pun, will ruin it for everyone. I'm no expert, but I would say it's best to go at it alone, which is good bathroom advice in general. If nothing else, Toilet Kids certainly is loyal to its theme, which will have you either giggling or taken aback depending on your level of maturity. But once you get over the shock value, what you're left with is a vertical shooter that's merely okay. It's not that it does anything wrong. The dual air and ground attack gameplay is executed just fine. It just seems that the game runs out of ideas, particularly with the enemy attacks. Occasionally you'll have something interesting like fish pooping barriers to dodge, but then it seems like you'll encounter dozens of annoying swarming flies, which, come to think of it, makes sense given the surroundings. All the same, they're not all that interesting and are more of a cheap annoyance than a legit challenge. Meanwhile, the land-based enemies are almost interchangeable as they mostly have the same basic projectile patterns. Dodge and spam the bombs. It does seem that 70 to 80% of your targets will be ground-based, and thus susceptible only to a bombing run. And while this makes for a mildly clever toilet emergency euphemism, it also makes the experience a bit more tedious than it needs to be. But honestly, the game's biggest sin outside its theme is the dearth of power-ups, many of which you'll barely find until you get to the 3rd level. You'll have your occasional shield, or screen-cleaning smart bomb, but the most uncommon are the cannon upgrades. You won't find too many of them, and they're gone the moment you take a hit. Plus, these power-ups have a nasty habit of flying up off-screen because of an errant bullet. They'll come back down, but at a high velocity, and too often in a location you won't be able to reach in time. And maybe it's just me being rusty, but I found the difficulty curve wildly uneven. It's not the most difficult game, but I swear I was having trouble getting past the first round. But then I bested the next 2 without issue. Not that it matters, it's a short game anyhow. Just 4 levels and then congratulations, here's some underpants. The end. It probably goes without saying, but this game never made it out of Japan. While Americans have been warming up to the idea of turning excrement into lovable cartoon characters, I suspect the imagery in this game is still a long way from finding general mainstream acceptance over here. But that's fine, as this was never intended to be for the North American market. It was made for the norms, values, mindset, and humor of a completely different culture. Keep this in mind if you decide to try it out for yourself and are easily offended by non-stop bathroom humor. At any rate, that was Toilet Kids. Come for the action, stay for the skid marks. Now if you excuse me, I need a shower.